Where do you go when you need more strength? Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. My name is Thorsten. Sometimes I was Mr. Achu, but not today. And good to see you all again. Have you ever seen a library that doesn't have any books? I know we haven't been in a library for a long time, and hopefully the books are still here. But 2,000 years ago, they had large libraries and not a single book in it, because they didn't have books at the time. We have only books for the last 500 years, but 2,000 years ago, they had scrolls and had shelves full of scrolls. This library is in Egypt, in a city called Alexandria. At one point, they had a large fire that unfortunately damaged this library substantially. And in this city, in Alexandria, there was a man, and his name is Clement of Alexandria. And he has some good teaching that I learned recently that we can still apply today. And he said, there are things that we all do that keep us away from learning more about God. And when you think about it, we like to watch TV, we like to watch YouTube videos, we like to play computer games, and this feels good to do that. Feels good on our body, and we feel happy when we do that. But when we think about it, it takes away time, and it will keep us away from learning more about God, of course. Where do we go to find strength to overcome those things? Remember Moses bringing the people out of Egypt into the promised land? They had a hard time there. They could only settle in the hill country, a lot of rocks, and they couldn't really make good fields, and it was not very good for the animals. Very difficult. No wonder that they struggled with being obedient to God. It was also the transition from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age. Before, they had swords made of bronze. It's the softer metal. The modern technology at the time was iron swords. The Philistines had iron swords at the time. Israel had a lot of tribes and big leaders like Samson, but they all failed. So they asked for a king to unite the country, to bring a strong army. And God actually warned them about having a king. The king will ask for sending your sons to the army. He will ask for taxes, but Israel demanded a king. And now, in the book of Samuel, that's today's story, it is the test of the kings. Will everything go well when we have a king? The book of Samuel is not at the beginning of the Bible, it's not at the end of the Bible, it's somewhere in the middle. And the name of the book is from the prophet Samuel. The prophet Samuel anointed the king. He anointed the first king, and this first king's name is King Saul. King Saul was doing great at the beginning, but later he disobeyed God. And then Samuel anointed David. He didn't become a king, but he was anointed. Later, Samuel died. The story still continues, so we can assume Samuel probably had some helpers that continued writing this book. And King Saul, who was still king at the time, he struggled because he couldn't hear from God. And he did something that God warned us against, that we should not do. He went to a medium. You can think of it as a fortune teller or a witch. He wanted to contact Samuel, who died. He wanted to contact Samuel to find his wisdom. So this book of Samuel is full with comparison between King Saul and King David, and a lot of fighting. And the Israelites even had songs about who was more successful in fighting, who fought 1,000 men or 10,000 men. And sometimes I think, that sounds like a fairy tale that I remember when I was a kid. And there was a fairy tale, maybe you guys know it, from a little brave tailor. And he made a belt with a big number 7, and everybody thought, oh, he probably fought 7 men at once, but he actually just slapped 7 flies at once. It's a good fairy tale, so look it up. It's about a unicorn was caught in a tree, and a wild boar caught in a house, and fighting 2 giants. Fun story. Back to our Bible story now. And as I said, in the book of Samuel, there's a lot of fighting. So let me get ready for the fight. David lived with his family and his 600 soldiers, 600 men, with his army of 600 men in a town called Ziklag. So it was a big town, 600 families. David was out on a mission. When they came back, they saw fire and smoke over the town where they lived. They were very concerned. What happened? What happened? Our families are all alone. Our children, our wives. And they ran and wanted to find out what's going on. They came into town. All their wives, all their children, all their animals, everything was gone. And the town, the houses were burned to the ground. And they all were super sad. They were weeping and crying. Oh, what happened? What happened? What would you do? Where did David go to find strength? He went to God. Saul couldn't hear from God, but David could hear from God. So he seems to be the better king, right? He prayed and asked God, what should I do? What should I do? And God answered him. And God said, go after him. So David and his soldiers got ready for battle. Let me get ready for battle as well. And he took his men and they went after them, after the people that raided the town, that took the wives and the children and the animals away. They found them and they fought with them in battle, and God gave them victory. And there was a happy end. All their families, all their wives, all their children, they were all alive and nobody got hurt. So where do you go when you need more strength? You pray and you ask God to help you. Bye-bye. See you.